Hurricane Melissa is expected to cross Jamaica and then hit eastern Cuba. You can actually see the storm preps underway in Havana and evacuations in Santiago de Cuba.
The National Hurricane Center warning that heavy rain could trigger catastrophic floods and landslides there. NBC News reporter Ed Augustin is following the latest from Havana for us. Ed, it's good to see you and hear you. Cuba facing constant nationwide blackouts, fuel and food shortages, even a dengue fever outbreak prior to Melissa. So let's talk about now this extra layer of devastation the storm could be adding now to Cuba.
Yeah, Cubans often say no es fácil, it's not easy, and this hurricane is due to barrel into eastern Cuba as Cuba is going through perhaps its biggest crisis, I was going to say in the last 30 years, perhaps ever. I mean, there are food shortages, there are rolling power cuts, there are medicine shortages. There's an outbreak right now of 3 separate tropical diseases. I had one last week. I can testify that it's not pretty. And it's facing now a Category 5 at the moment hurricane, barreling straight for eastern Cuba. Very, very difficult. Long-standing economic inefficiencies in Cuba lead to the lack of economic productivity. That means the money doesn't have, the country doesn't have the hard currency to import things. But it has to be said as well, Cuba is a country that has been sanctioned for longer than any other country in modern history. And since 2019, the United States has had special, they're called maximum pressure sanctions, that make the crisis even worse. Just to give you one example, right now the US Treasury Department sanctions oil tankers that bring petroleum to Cuba. And most of Cuba's petroleum is refined in very, very old Soviet-era power stations. And so that directly worsens the electricity crisis. You know, I just spoke to somebody in eastern Cuba. He hasn't had light since last night. He's very, very worried about the limited power that there's going to be over the next coming days. And that policy intentionally makes people's situations more difficult in times of crisis. Very, very difficult.
And I'm really glad you mentioned eastern Cuba, because I think sometimes people don't realize, I don't know, Rob, if you have the map there, how close Cuba and Jamaica are. We often talk about the proximity from Miami to Havana, which is where we see a lot of the demographic shift there on the right side of Cuba. If you go north, that's 90 miles to Miami. But if you go south, you say Camagüey is 90 miles from the eastern side of the island. And so that is where I think you're seeing, you see a lot of people move and migrate, but you also see this storm, right, impacts with people across the islands. Ed Augustin joining us live from Havana. Ed, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.